wearing the
No.
sweatshirt that I want? Can I see your
It's
sweatshirt?
coming.
I love.
Hi, everyone. We're going to get started
Holly
again.
Brew, I love her.
We're going to get started again. Good afternoon. In case you didn't remember who I was, I'm Anthea Butler. I'm the woman with the wig on that really needs to come off right now. And that's going to be in about 30, 35 minutes, okay? We're going to snatch it off like I'm on Maury Povich or something. I am not kidding. Okay. I know. See, we have a lot of Maury Povich watchers in here. It is my great pleasure to open the third panel of the day with hair professionals to discuss the social and business aspects and the social media aspects surrounding Black women's hair. I want to introduce our panelists, and we're going to go in order, and then I will be last along with my hairstylist, who I will introduce you in a few minutes. Patrice Grell-Usick, also known as Afrobella, and you'll see behind us, is one of the country's leading African-American beauty bloggers. Her site, afrobella.com, features everything from new product reviews, interviews, shopping tips, and resources, all relayed with her signature candor and wit. With a loyal fan base, including myself, and a readership that includes celebrities and influencers, Afrobella is known for representing Black beauty and for showcasing the newest and best products and trends in hair care, color cosmetics, and more. And I like to think of her as a lifestyle consultant. So it's not just about hair, it's not just about beauty, it's about everything that helps you make your life beautiful.
Exactly. Thank you.
Londra Johnson is the co-founder and chief executive officer of Caribbean Natural Products Incorporated, a company promoted to creating natural, chemical-free products and promoting positive images for and about ethnically diverse children. Londra was the first inspired to create Caribbean Naturally in 2006 when her son was a year old, and the company was born in 2009. A former Emmy-nominated broadcast television news journalist and reporter on Capitol Hill, Londra has become a true advocate and has lobbied local and national government officials for safe practices in the personal care industry. And finally, last but not least, the person who makes me beautiful all the time. Abina Timothy of Brownstone Natural Hair Salon is a 20-year veteran of the hair care industry. Not just a stylist, Abina believes in total hair care and total body care too. She made me this great vegetable sushi. When was that? Yesterday?
Yes.
It was really great. She will give you the recipe if you want it. Abina's exciting creations have been featured in Braids and Beauty, Elite Hair, and London-based magazine Blues and Soul. Her clients have included Jill Scott, Jaguar White, Joe Torre of Def Comedy Jam, NFL star Al Harris, and of course me, Anthea Butler, the one who needs it the most. Please welcome all of them to our panel. And because I've been asked to do this, I'm going to play the role of Melissa, even though I can't be Melissa Harris Perry very well. So we're going to start off with some questions, and I'm going to go sort of through the list, and then we'll get down to Abina and myself last. So first, I want to say welcome to Ms. Afrobella, also known as Patrice.
Hello.
And I want to ask you about how you started blogging. You told me a funny story about your former boss and how he didn't like what you were doing, and I thought you might be able to tell us that really quickly.
And I'll tell you also it can live stream, and maybe he could be watching it in his office.
This look is for you.
Yes. So how I started blogging, I felt limited. It was kind of like I was working at a newspaper. I was the editor of my own section. It was the calendar section of the newspaper, so it was all the fun things to do for the week and that kind of stuff. And it was a fun job. There were a lot of perks to it, but it was kind of like the difference between painting a miniature landscape or painting a huge abstract, and I felt like I was very limited in what I could say and the tone that they wanted me to write in and the stuff they wanted me to write about. I wanted to create my own platform, and I didn't see a reflection of us in, online at the time. This was 2006. So this was, August of 2006 is when I started my blog. So it really started there. I think the story you want me to tell is how I quit my job.
Yes.
And right, okay, so so I had the blog. It was going great. I was getting a lot of success from it. I was doing NPR. I was doing all kinds of opportunities, and I started to be invited to events. So how I wound up quitting my job, it kind of hinged on the inauguration of Barack Obama. I was invited to a couple of events to do with that. I was invited to the Root Ball. I was invited to a couple of the, the more enjoyable, high-profile events in the evening. I was like really excited about it. And I asked him for time off, and he said no, because it had nothing to do with my job. And he gave the time off to my assistant and said, which I was kind of, Yeah, right? Exactly. That's how I felt. That's exactly that's how I felt. And so, okay, I was like, all right, you did that. I'm just going to have to keep it moving. I have to get this section out and just. So then I wound up doing NPR. There was a great show called News and Notes by Farai Chideya. I loved her. She was great. And she was really the first person in that line of media to recognize that bloggers had a voice and that we needed to be listened to and that we were going to shape the media in a different way, you know. So she had a bloggers roundtable, so I would sneak away from my desk at lunch and I would go to this bloggers roundtable, and then when he was on his way home from work, he would get to hear that, you know, why is Patrice on the radio? So I went into his office and I told him I was gonna go do this, you know, special radio show, pre-inaugural thing. And he turned to me and he said, do you really think people care that much about the inauguration? Now, this isn't the second one, this is the first one. So, yes, people did care a lot. Right. Yeah, that expression right there, that's how I felt. Right there.
In her hand.
Like, ah. And this is an editor-in-chief of a newspaper. I couldn't believe that he said that. And it, you know, in a way it reinforced that this is why I have my blogs, because they don't get it. Like, he just didn't get that that was a huge story, and that was something that of course I wanted to be at, and it was history. You're telling me that not only can I not participate in history, but I can't talk about it, or you don't care if I talk about it. So that's what led me to quit my job.
Exactly. Thank you. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the genesis of the blog. You started off doing natural hair, and then it kind of blossomed out. Tell us a little bit about that process and how you started to expand.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, the blog was always the magazine that I couldn't find on the newsstands. And I always felt I wanted to, obviously natural hair is a huge part of it, but there's so much more to us than just hair, you know, and there's so much more to us that makes us beautiful. So I always wanted it to be about hair, skin, makeup, you know, fashion for us, and the cultural issues that we care about as well. I did write a lot about hair when I first started my blog, especially because there weren't any other outlets that were really putting that lens on us. And as it grew and grew and grew to the point where there's so many natural hair blogs and YouTube channels now, it's like you can almost not, you know, enumerate them. I felt, okay, so what can I contribute to the discussion at this point when everybody is in on the discussion? So I chime in very carefully. I try to make sure that there's always a focus, there's always that loving light of natural hair on my blog, but it is not completely what my blog is about. I find just focusing on hair to be a little stifling and limiting for me, at least.
Yeah, exactly. If you could think about, since you've been blogging, a trend, you know, in terms of just hair and African women, women of African descent hair more generally, what would you say in the last 5 to 10 years have been the big trends?
I mean, just going natural, that whole trend of encouraging people to do that big chop and to celebrate that, you know, you've found this new freedom in expressing yourself the way that you feel free, or the way that, you know, kind of getting rid of what you were told to do, and embracing your own style. I mean, to me, that's been the biggest thing that I see on the internet. And then, okay, so I've cut all of my hair off, now what do I do? Yeah. That's the next question. A lot of people don't know what the next step is, and that's where we're able to come in and be helpful.
Okay. One of the questions that came up in the last panel from a couple of people was about sort of this tension between people who are actually doing hair and bloggers, and the sense in which people are wanting to do the how-to kind of thing, and they're getting advice from blogs and YouTube and everything else, but, you know, by the time that they get to the hair salon, the hair is really busted.
Right.
You know, let's put it like that. Do you want to say something about that? I mean, I think it would be helpful for you as a blogger to sort of speak to this sort of, I don't see it being a divide necessarily. I see them helpful to each other, but I think sometimes people perceive it differently.
Yeah, people can get really angry sometimes when they feel like they're being talked down to or told that they have to obey certain rules. And I think in the natural hair community, it's been very much about taking ownership of taking ownership of your beauty, taking ownership of the way that you take care of your hair, and educating yourself. And a lot of people take a lot of pride in that self-education. But there is misinformation out there. I cannot claim to know everything about every hair texture. I'm not a licensed cosmetologist. I'm not somebody who has touched how many heads of hair over the last 20 years, you know, like, and I think that you have to recognize that we know a lot, but we don't know everything. And it's okay to say that you don't know everything, and it's okay to turn to an expert with the questions that only they can answer, you know. I don't know, and then you get a backlash. This just happened. I wrote a blog post that was, you know, with a natural hairstylist. She contributed what she felt were, you know, the biggest falsehoods that are out there. And people were angry. People coming in my comments in all caps talking about why is she, she's mad because she's losing clients. No, she's mad because y'all are coming back to her chair with busted hair because you read about some crazy thing on a blog or YouTube. So I think that there's self-education, but there's also recognizing when we do not know everything, and you need to recognize that there's professionals.
Yeah. What might you suggest to somebody who's been blogging for a long time that people could look for, in terms of blogs? How do you tell something that is good than, relative than bad? I sort of tell my students, Wikipedia is not good for you,
Right.
and, in big spaces, but it might be good for you for this little bit of information, and you move on.
Mm-hmm.
So how can we help people, sort of read a blog more intelligently, or look at something and go, that's really good, and the other one say, it's not so good?
I think the most important thing is to not just read one blog. Some people really will just stay on one site, and maybe they might have a forum or something, and it's like there's a choir and you're all singing to each other, and you don't recognize that because you're in this bubble that you've created. So just taking the time to read as much as you can and see all of the different perspectives that are out there, and not being afraid to find a stylist. I think a lot of people have literally been burned by stylists. At least that was my experience, and it made me go away from that. But I can't do everything on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And just to ask you, since I'm sure everybody's curious, your personal hair journey, have you always been natural? Have you not? Or
No.
what was your journey?
My journey was I started, my mom took me to relax my hair when I was 6 years old. And that was because it's that traditional generational story of I don't know how to take care of my own natural hair, so I therefore do not know how to take care of your own natural hair. And I think it's something that we don't necessarily address within our community. It's like you assume that black moms know how to take care of your hair, and they often don't. Okay. So that was my story. I started when I was 6, and when I came to America, I'm from Trinidad and Tobago. So when I came to America, I had to learn how to take care of my own hair and how to relax my own hair. And just the process of there's this box and these gloves, and what am I doing? And why the fact that you're putting these gloves on, exactly, you have to think about that. And I never had thought about that before. So in college, I went through a lengthy transition period. We'll call it my broke Tina Turner years. It was not cute at all, because it was, kinky at the roots and then crazy all the rest of it. But when I got married, we got married pretty much 3 weeks after graduating college, which was crazy because we were doing, planning a wedding and finals at the same time. And then I did my big chop. That was it. I did my big chop for my wedding. I wore a tiara, and I never looked back. So that was it.
Great. Yeah, and that's a momentous occasion to do the big chop.
Yeah.
To
So
take
it's been 11 years. So.
Yeah. And how's your husband feel about your natural hair?
He actually could never understand why I was doing the relaxer. So my husband is white, and he was very much like, why are you trying to make your hair look like what? I don't understand that. And now he shaves his head, so he just is like, I have no patience for the whole hair thing in general. He just doesn't care about it. But yeah, I mean, it really, he never quite understood why I felt the need to, as he saw it, look like, not like myself. And as it started to grow and become what I wanted it to be, my hair is an expression of who I am. And I denied that for a long time, So I went through, and I look at pictures of myself from, when I was 16, 17, and it was slicked and laid. It doesn't look like myself, and I see that. I was going through an internal transition and led to an external transition.
Yeah. If you were going to give some advice to somebody who, is sort of thinking about starting blogging, they want to blog about hair, black beauty, all this sort of compilation about, aesthetics in writ large, what would you suggest to them? How would you tell them to go about it? Because I know there are a lot of things, like Twitter and Facebook and all these things, and you use all of these social media things very well. Absolutely. And so I'd like to hear you talk a little bit about that, some suggestions you might want to give your own process.
My suggestion would be, especially if you're now looking to start a natural hair blog, there's so many natural hair blogs out there. Educate yourself. Don't just jump into the space thinking, I'm going to change the game. Like, look at what everybody has been doing. Look at the history of some of the natural hair blogs that have been around since, 06, 07, 08. Go back to their early posts. It might give you an idea of, looking at my journey, looking at Curly Nikki's journey, looking at Black Girl Long Hair, looking at those sites, how they've evolved over time to become what they are. So look at maybe the most popular ones to get that idea, get that inspiration, and then think about where is your voice going to fit in? Where is your voice going to be different? Where are you going to be able to contribute and recognize that it's a community? You know, I think with Twitter and with Facebook, you can engage with your fellow bloggers and you can engage with the natural hair space in a way that is truly organic and meaningful, and it's a beautiful thing. And if you want to be an island, then you don't get the benefits of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then maybe my last question is to sort of encompass it all, to think about how are the ways in which people talk about beauty, especially for African American women and women of African descent. Do you see those changing, or are we still sort of buying into some of the same stereotypes, or has this sort of this bigger market for all kinds of things we can do with our hair and our bodies and everything? How has that maybe changed?
I mean, it's crazy to me that now a lot of the products that women have been whipping up in their kitchens are now on the shelves at Target.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's amazing. I love that. I love that it's becoming mainstream. I love that when I turn on my TV, I'll see a commercial for anything from, you know, Mercedes to Honey Nut Cheerios where there's a woman with natural hair. That was not happening in 2006, and that's actually one of the things that directly led me to want to start the blog. Like, you know, where are we? And now we are everywhere. I think that has changed. But then every time I feel that we've taken a step forward, there'll be, you know, something like what happened to Kovansane Wallace, you know, or something like I just saw a photo shoot that they did where they put a white model completely, made her African queen, exactly. And I'm like, word, y'all did that in 2013?
Yeah.
Like, you know, and how many black models are out there just waiting to get hired to do something?
Yeah.
So you feel like, you know, it's like you take 2 steps forward and then you realize maybe you're in the same spot that you were, which is a sad thing. But that's why we're necessary, and that's why this event is so important.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really good point, because I saw that model and I just thought, this is ridiculous. This is a whole bunch of people walking around every day at these modeling agencies that want to get picked up. And you put this woman in virtual blackface so she can pretend she's African.
And it's not her fault.
Great.
The thing is, people are going to look at this model. She's 16 years old. This might be one of her first big things. You know, she doesn't yet have the agency to say no.
Yeah.
The people who have put that together behind the scenes are the ones who are the problem. The magazine editor who thought that was a good idea to run that story is the problem.
Yeah, no, exactly. Thank you so much.
Of course.
And you will be able to ask questions and things
Absolutely.
afterwards. Okay. And next is going to be Larry. We're going to talk a little bit about Caribbean Naturally. And so I want to just get that up on the website first so you can see about these natural hair care products, because these are her beautiful kids up here. Look at that. And I'm thinking about running the video. Should we show a little bit of the movie?
It's your show.
It's, you know what? I'm going to show a little bit of the movie. I mean, you just got to see. You can go see this rest of this later, but look at this.
So is that you washing your hair?
No. They're triplet. They're triplet boys. They're delicious.
They are adorable.
I couldn't help it because I was like, I have to wait till little baby says hello. This is just too cute. I wanted you to just open out by talking a little bit about the journey about starting this business, and this is an amazing thing because, you know, my mother used to sit down and try to comb my hair, and it'd be like at the last plait, I'd be screaming, right? And she's like, you need to stop. I'm trying to get that blue magic in your hair. And, you know, if we just had this, maybe I'd have been better off. But go.
Well, this day of talking about what is African American beauty as it relates to women, as it relates to our hair, has been a wonderful experience for me. But I came to this whole space from a different angle. I was really preoccupied with toxins and synthetic chemicals as it related to the overall health of my newborn. So my first baby was a boy. I didn't have to worry about styling his hair. I was more concerned about the impact of synthetic ingredients on his overall health. And then when I had my daughter, that's when the evolution completed in terms of my overall concern with the images that we are sending to our children, the messages that we're sending to our children, in addition to products, making sure that we had products that not only spoke to our concerns regarding health, physical health, but also emotional health, sense of self, sense of self-esteem. So that's why I started the company. I nearly broke the Google machine back in 2006, looking for products that spoke to the needs of my child and that were genuinely chemical-free. because we all know that anyone can create any product and put natural on it, and it is full of ingredients that you cannot pronounce. So I was looking for something that I could trust as a mother, and when I couldn't find it, I said, I want to make something for myself, but I want to make something for all of the other women who are just like me, who have concerns about overall health and providing truly natural products to the market. So that's kind of where I started, and now where I've ended. It's just been a great journey because I get to talk to women like you all of the time. It's usually from a perspective of what should I do with my child's hair? What products should I use? Am I talking about it?
No, you just.
So so that's kind of where I started and how I've walked through this, and it's just been a great experience.
Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking, I mean, I made the joke about blue magic, but this is really true. You know, we use products sometimes to help ease the kink out of combing hair and all of this. What makes your products different besides using the organic parts of them? And tell us a little bit about the product line, too.
Right now, we've got 4 products in our line. 3 are focused on hair, and then we also have a body lotion. And some of the differentiating characteristics. First of all, we are certified natural. So we are certified natural by an independent agency, the Natural Products Association, which takes a look at every single ingredient. Where did it come from? How was it sourced? How is it mixed? How does it interact with all the other ingredients? And does that alter it in any way? So it's a very, very detail-oriented, and they just kind of get into all of my business about to make sure that when we have that seal, certified natural, that it is what we say it is. So that's the biggest differentiator. We also are a company that is solely focused on the ethnic baby and children market, which is very niche. We are not a company that started out making products for women and then decided to put a new label on it and make something for children. And why that's important is you just think about how children are so much more susceptible to toxins than we as adults are. And you think about the impact of those toxins over a lifetime. If you start putting those chemicals on your children from the time they are born through their lifetime, what impact that can ultimately have. So, the FDA is now really looking into how these ingredients impact our health. We're talking about endocrine issues. We're talking that goes into hormones and early puberty and cancer and, so we should all brace ourselves for more and more information to come out about the impact of these chemicals. Yeah. And what we say is that being natural, it's not about a hairstyle, it's about a lifestyle. Exactly. And to really kind of think about that. We try not to preach, but we try to at least provide the information for everyone to at least think about what they're putting on their bodies, particularly as it relates to their kids.
Okay. And did this start off like you just kind of mixing up products together? I was sort of interested because I wondered, what this process was. I imagine you probably thought, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not putting these things on my baby's head. So how did you start this process of coming up with the different things that you're selling now?
I have no background in, I'm not a stylist.
Yeah.
I have no background in beauty. I am not a scholar.
Doesn't matter. You got a business.
Well, I'm a mommy who became obsessed with how do I care for my children in the most natural way possible. And I actually started looking around for formulators who knew how to work with all natural ingredients, knew what to avoid, knew what combinations would work, and then just went through a very lengthy process in terms of focus group testing, and my poor children were my guinea pigs. Mommy, you already did my hair today.
Let's do it again.
Yes. So, Mommy, another bath? I'm clean. So, I admire women who take it upon themselves to source ingredients and devote their kitchens. I don't even cook. So the idea of me compiling ingredients, that was just not the way that I felt was the best way for me to approach my business. But I do admire, does anyone know the Puka Pure and Simple?
Yeah, I've used it today.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I'm for my company, but this is a great company, and that this is a group of women who they started, mixing this stuff up themselves, and it's an amazing process that they went through. And so I guess that's to say that there are different ways to get to the same place.
Right. Yeah.
I just decided that given my skill set, it was best for me to go to professionals, go straight to the source, and have them formulate something that I thought would speak to the needs of us.
Okay. And so now I noticed, from the website and some of the materials you gave me, that you're in some different outlets like Walgreens and other places. Talk a little bit about that process of how you move from, making this product and getting it into the retail area, because I think this is a really important thing. Women are so used to, we'll go to the beauty supply or someplace else, but to be able to get it when you're getting your groceries or you're at Whole Foods or someplace like that is really important in order to be able to purchase a product is, availability.
Yeah. Well, how we got there, in a word, painfully. I'm sure there are a lot of entrepreneurs here, people who know, people who've started their own businesses. It's a very challenging thing to pursue. And I think, first of all, getting into Whole Foods for people who are really interested in that. There's a lot of information out there about how to get into Whole Foods. It's not an easy thing to do. Yeah. And one of the things that really helped open the door for us for Whole Foods was the fact that we were certified natural by the Natural Products Association, which meant Whole Foods did not have to worry about our ingredients. They don't play when it comes to ingredients, and if something's organic, it really must be organic. And so that really helped open the door for us for Whole Foods. For the other outlets, Walgreens, Target.com, Drugstore.com, I think what's really amazing, and folks like Patrice have really contributed to this, and that companies are responding to what we as women of color want for ourselves and want to see in the stores, and they want that accessibility, and companies are really stepping up and paying attention to the things that we care about, which is a fabulous thing. And so it was surprising to us that some of these big box stores were so receptive to us. My sister, raise your hand. This is my sister. She's my business partner. Receptive to two young black women who had no previous business experience, but had a message, had a brand, had thoughtful packaging, had a kind of manufacturing process in place, and that they were willing to put us on their shelves. It's a remarkable thing, and I think it speaks well for our power as women of color, the power of our purses, and the fact that there's some segment of corporate America that recognizes that there's value in this kind of all-natural evolution that we're going through.
And do you see a difference? I was just asking this out of curiosity because we had a regionality question earlier. Do you see, what section of the country are you selling most in? Can you say any of that?
Yeah, we did talk about Southeast, so you're talking at Georgia, and then Texas would be our number 2, and she's my CMO, so yes, North Carolina is our...
And let me just say that for the people on web. So there was, go again, North Carolina,
Georgia, Texas, California,
Florida. Okay, so that's good. So that's a good set, swath of the country there. And so how do you go about promotion? I said you're using your kids because that's a great marketing thing.
I didn't have to pay them.
You didn't have to pay them. Right. But they will be frozen in time, right? Because they're always going to be these particular ages that they were when you did the pictures and everything. Right. So going forward, would you think about using something different, or what has it been like using your kids?
Well, the guinea pig, it's been very great. I didn't have to pay them for that. Didn't have to pay them for their images. Yeah. But creating a product for them that actually has them depicted on the label, they think that's perfectly normal. You know, the lack
I got
of
my own
awareness
shampoo.
of children is so remarkable that everybody's on, you know, everybody's faces are in the stores. It's my company and my Caribbean Naturally. Caribbean Naturally stands for Children Are Always Beautiful Naturally. I needed to have a name that meant something to me. This company is another child of mine. So having them integrated into the company in a way, it just makes me love it even more. Yeah.
And I was thinking about, you know, the name Children Are Always Beautiful Naturally. I sort of thinking, are there things that you want to convey, not just product-wise, about how we should think about our children and beauty? Because I think this is, you know, it's always crucial for children, especially growing up, when they're starting to hit these images of themselves, especially young children of an ethnicity in this country, because you get so many images battered at you. So how do you think your product helps in that process?
Yeah. That speaks to one of the things that's been something that we didn't expect or appreciate when we went into this. I was very thoughtful. We were very thoughtful about the packaging for our products, and I wanted something that depicted children in the most positive way possible. And if you think about our children depicted as art, so that the drawing, the illustration, a professional artist we commissioned to do that, and one of the things that was really touching was our first events when we started going into stores and meeting moms. They were stunned. Oh my gosh, there are brown children on this bottle.
Yeah.
We cannot believe that you have the nerve,
Yeah.
you know, to put brown babies on packaging, which said that A, thank goodness that you did it, but B, it also spoke to why is that so remarkable?
Yeah.
When I was looking for products for my children, I had no trouble finding products that had beautiful pictures of beautiful blonde-haired, blue-eyed children. They're all over the place. So why is it so amazing that we have brown children? You know,
Yeah,
that's kind of sad.
Exactly, but see,
Yeah.
that just means the aesthetic of this whole thing starts very
Right.
early, right?
Right,
In terms
exactly.
of how we look at, even how we think about, you know, should these little blonde-haired, blue-eyed kids on the shampoo bottle,
Right.
but then, you know, to see a child that's brown on a bottle means it takes something different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, in terms of just out there talking about the product, you know, trying to do your marketing and everything else, where have you encountered backlash from people? And if you've encountered any, what has it been like?
My sister is my chief marketing officer. Have we encountered backlash?
Can I get you to come stand
Yeah.
up and come up here so
Come
we can
here.
hear you? I want to be able to hear you. Just come and use my mic. You can come stand by me.
Backlash. I don't know that we've encountered backlash.
Hello. Wasn't expecting to speak today,
You're
but
welcome.
yeah, we'll talk about this later. Long flight home. But yeah, I think, you know, we have had, as my sister said, for the most part, we have had, you know, a lot of great feedback from different retailers who, you know, immediately got what we're doing. But we have had some who are like, you know, I don't think that, you know, I don't understand why, you know, children need different products. I don't, like, what is the thing that makes your product so different? Why does a baby need anything for their hair? I mean, why can't they just use, you know, whatever you're using, or, you know, like, there's always a lot of questions. We do encounter people who question, why is there a need for something different for ethnic hair in general, especially when it comes to our children? So it's not necessarily a backlash. It's just, you know, those moments of miseducation that we encounter.
Moms get it, though.
Right. Moms get it. Moms get it. But sometimes there are people in higher places, people that are retailers and buyers and other things that do have those questions.
Thank you. I didn't mean to bring you out from the audience, but I needed to hear that because I was just sort of curious about, because we always just think sometimes that there's so many products on the market, right?
Right.
That, you know, nobody ever says anything about products. So, I mean, also, do you feel, do you feel like you occupy a special place on the shelf because you are what you are relative to everything else? I mean, if we counted all the black hair care product that was in this room right now, we could probably sink the Titanic.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of product. But I mean, is it really useful that there's not that much, for kids and especially for natural hair right now? Because that means you have a special place on those shelves in those stores. Yeah.
Absolutely, that's been helpful. It's been a little challenging to what Christy was saying. It's been a little challenging in explaining who we are and what we're about. But once they get it, it has worked in our favor in that we are the only one, and we are often in 2 different locations in stores, which is a plus. That's a good thing, to be in the baby care section and be in the ethnic hair care section. So we do occupy that special space, and we think about kind of the whole body, not just hair, but hair and skin, kind of head to toe care. And so again, moms understand that. Moms understand the need. When you have a newborn, you are not going to use the same products on yourself as you would on a newborn baby.
Yeah. And my last question to you is probably going to be a little bit of a trick, so I'm going to apologize for asking it right now. What do you say to the mom that's out there, that's like the mom in good hair who sits her little daughter in the chair, who's 4 years old, about to put the relaxer on her hair? What would you try to say to help her think about something else?
Well, yeah, that's not even a hypothetical for us.
Yeah, I know, it's real.
I meet women like that all the time, and one of the things, first of all, being a mother is hard enough without having some other woman judge you and try to tell you that you're doing something wrong for your child. So we've always come from a place of not judging women or not trying to make them feel guilty for the choices that they've made when it comes to something like caring for your hair. We say education is key, and for some women, it kind of takes something as kind of shock value as this product says it has petrolatum in it. The key word being petro. You put that in your car. Why would you put that on your baby?
Yeah. And
so, it's when we know better, we do better.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's been great to be a part of the education of all of us. I'm learning. I'm doing everything I can to stay up on the latest information and studies about ingredients and their impact, as well as hairstyles, because I get a lot of questions, even though I'm not a stylist, hairstyles for children, and I welcome all of that, and I think we all just need to kind of embrace the fact that there's an evolution going on, and we just need to be sure we educate ourselves and just be more cognizant when it comes to the ingredients we're using, the products we're using, and the messages that we're sending to our kids. And other thing that when we talked about this earlier today, going to your question, the idea of in our culture, our little girls growing up waiting for the day they get a relaxer. That soon will not be the case. I do not believe my 6-year-old daughter is going to grow up waiting, as I did, to turn 11 to get the birthday present of a relaxer, which is really crazy if you think about it, in that you're celebrating my birth, but at the same time telling me that the hair that is growing out of my scalp, there's something problematic with that, and therefore I must put toxic chemicals onto my hair to make it different. That is not a message that I think is going to be the prevailing message for our little girls. It may be, it's been a slow process, but I think it's picking up steam, and it's no longer a default position that one day you will get a perm. No.
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
And if you make that choice, make it from the place of education. I know what this chemical is that I'm putting in my hair, and I know what the implications are for my overall health.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, the reason why I asked you this is that so many times children can't make that choice because parents do that to them. And if my sister is watching this, and I know you are, one of the things that happened to one of her friends was that her friend's daughter got taken by her boyfriend's new woman, and they relaxed the child's hair without asking her mother's permission. And so that was, this is like a moment of real, it was awful because, obviously this other woman had jumped in and wasn't the mother and decided you need to get that hair straightened out because if you with me, this is what we need to do.
Right.
So, yeah. So I hope that her friend sees this and that the whole room has disagreed.
Yes.
Okay? And just boo, okay? Just boo. Thank you. Wow. Abina.
Yes.
And now we're going to get to the slightly crazy and fun part. But first, I want to have Abina talk a little bit about her salon, Brownstone Salon, and how you got started doing hair. You talked a little bit about that history this morning, so why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
My name is Abina, just as she said, and I'm the owner of Brownstone Natural Hair and Barber Studio. And I always like to jokingly say that there's families that can sing. You have the Winans, they can sing. The Jacksons can sing. And my family, we can do hair. That is what our talent is. My grandfather was a barber. He came from Jamaica. And when he came here, he actually worked at what is now Veterans Hospital, but back then it was called Philadelphia Hospital. And he was a barber surgeon. So what that was is when prior to you having surgery, they would shave your body or whatever part that needed, because that was part of cleansing. Cleansing the body was to remove the hair. And so that is what my grandfather did. And then he later moved on to own his own barbershop for 70 years. I recently lost him last year. He was 96. But he lived a very long and fruitful life, and he was the first entrepreneur in my family. If people are familiar with the West Indies, a lot of people in the West Indies, Jamaica, Trinidad, Tobago, we all base our life on rooting back to the earth. Okay, so if you want to, heal yourself, you're going to eat mangoes, and you're going to probably have, some castor oil, and everything is really naturally derived. And aloe plant if you have a burn. So those type of things I grew up on. Horsetail if you have a cold, cod liver oil if you're, congested. So all of these things is what I grew up with. I grew up with a natural, holistic, lifestyle, and so the entrepreneur spirit grew in me. I would go and visit my grandfather's barbershop, and I loved the scent of the barbershop, that talcum powder and, that splash that you pour on after you have your fresh shave. And so I enjoyed the whole camaraderie of men just coming to visit him and how people loved him in the neighborhood and how he was a staple in the community and, how he did, philanthropy throughout the neighborhood and different things that, how he related to the neighborhood and how the neighborhood related to him. And so that was my father's father. And so my mother is a hairstylist as well. And so I'm pretty much bookend into being a hairstylist. And so going through cosmetology school, I realized that I wanted my focus to be on not just giving someone straight hair, because once the knowledge that I received from cosmetology school, I said, you know what? I don't think I want to be responsible for hair loss or burns. That's kind of not what I want to do. I just want to adorn people and make them look good, but I don't want to have to feel self-conscious about what's going to happen in 6 months, in 2 months, or maybe in 2 hours, because you have experiences where you get a relaxer and few hours later, your hair is sticking to your head because you have a first or second degree burn. These are experiences that African American women and women of ethnic descent, we experience, and we never want to talk about the gruesome portion of it. But a lot of times, for me in the 90s, I had a lot of clients come to me and they asked for the Halle Berry haircut. And it wasn't because they wanted to shave the back of their head, it's because they had to. They didn't have a choice. That was where their hair loss went. And he said, you know what, we're going to work with whatever is, happening at that time. So for me, it was just really a lifestyle that I grew up on. It was always, you're not going to, my mom already said, my grandfather said, you're not going to get, a relaxer. You're going to wear your hair the way that it is. You're going to be happy with what God gave you, and we're going to just work with it. And so for me, it's been 21 years now that I've been in the hair industry, and I feel so great about the people that I have helped. And that's really, for me, it's a helping and a healing process and an experience that people have when they wear their hair natural or want to, as people say, go natural, as if it's a place to go. I'm going to go natural. And you're like, well, do you have 2 tickets? Because I think I want to go too. And so what happens is you have people who are friends, and you're like, you know what? I think I'm going to do that. And you do it together. And you experience it, and you go and you look at Afro Bell, and you say, you know what, let me go and see what happened with somebody that was in Texas, or somebody that was in Atlanta, or somebody that was in Philly. And then you find that people's stories are so close and similar to each other that you feel like, I don't know this lady that's in, Savannah, but I'm having that same experience. And so you have those type of relationships that you have with people. And like I was explaining to Anthea and my lovely panelists here, that it's an experience that you have, and it's a journey that I go through when I have a client in my chair. I'm not just a hairstylist. I'm a psychiatrist. Sometimes I'm a marriage counselor. Sometimes I'm I help people with parenting. It's all, that the chair becomes not just a leather chair, but it's a leather sofa some way, somehow, because people feel that they can trust me. They can sit in my chair. They can, get beautified. I can make them feel like a queen for however many hours it is. And they can talk to me and trust that what happens in my chair stays in my chair, And so you experience a whole lot when you're a stylist, because I experience baby showers. I may not have attended these places, but they tell me about it. Oh, my baby, I had a baby. I'm having a baby. I went to a funeral. So you go through people's lives with them, one person at a time, 2 hours at a time, for however long that person is in your chair. And so I have a responsibility. I feel as though I have a responsibility as a stylist to educate my client and not just style their hair, because it's more than just a hairstyle. Mm-hmm. It's about educating them on what to do once they leave the chair, so that when they return, we're on the same page.
Exactly. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, when you were sitting here, you showed me yesterday when we were in the salon, you were talking about being upset because of one of the newspaper articles when they had introduced you between the difference between locks and dreads. And I would like you to say something about this, especially because I do religion, as you well know, and
Yes.
Let's talk about it a little bit.
There was an article that was written by on Philly. It actually was on an Inquirer, and her name is Janine. She's an awesome writer here in Philadelphia, and she did an interview with Patty Jackson, which is another one of my clients, and she talked to her about her hair, and she said, I noticed that people recognize you for your dreads. And so I said, when I read it, I said, kind of gave me a little, so I didn't, I just continued to read on this great article. And ironically enough, shortly after I read it, she called me, just out of the blue, and she said, hey, listen, I'm getting some flack. People are tweeting me, and they're saying, you got to do something about this dread word. So she said, I had to call you because I needed to know what was why am I getting so much, flack on using the word dread? So I had explained to her that, colonization is something that happens, and with British, going to Jamaica, and they actually were the ones who called our hair dreadful. When they saw the people that were there, they said, they had their hair is dreadful. And so it was from, of course, if no one, it doesn't matter what ethnic background you are, if you do not comb your hair, it is going to lock, okay? It's going to lock, it's going to mesh together. And so using the term dread when we've come so far from using that term, because there is nothing dreadful about our hair. Whether it, and so we have to have make a conscious decision about the language that we use when we talk about ourselves, our skin color, and our hair, because it all correlates together. Though all three of those things work in conjunction with each other. And so she was very happy that we were able to have that conversation around why it wasn't proper to call someone's hair dreads. So she said, from moving forward, she said to me, moving forward, it's going to be locks. And so she was happy because she said, I can't imagine how many people I may have offended or made them feel uncomfortable by saying that their hair was dreadful. Because really, that's what you're saying. You're just cutting off the other end. So she said she was really, happy that she was able to, know that that wasn't the proper terminology, because it is always her intention to come across with proper information. So that's where that whole conversation came from.
Yeah, thank you. And then one more question, and then we'll get on to the show.
Okay.
What about the products that you make? And we've kind of been dancing around this thing about whether you make your own or you do it or whatever. And I know that you do some products in the shop, and I've used some of them before. So talk about that whole process and how that came about.
Well, the name of my company is called Feng Shui Organics, and it's a natural and organic skincare and hair care company. And the way that it came about was because I had a client that was having a very bad scalp condition. And it wasn't to the point where I needed to send him to the dermatologist, but it was to the point where I felt as though it was something that I could get under control. And at that time, I was using a product line. I had gone through all of the products that were in this line, particularly for moisturizing and nourishing the scalp, and I just couldn't seem to get his scalp under control. So I had been talking to my husband about it. I said, what, I really feel like that I need to help him. Because once again, like I said, it's not just about a style for me, it's about the health of the person's hair. And I was just totally felt like I was just debunked at this point. Like, okay, I've gone through 5 different things, I can't figure it out. And really the way that it happened, and it's funny because you are a religious studies professor, I actually went to sleep that night, and I woke up at 5 o'clock, around 5 o'clock, before and 5 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up and instantly 5 ingredients came to my head. God knew what was on my heart, and I never, ever have paper and pen available the way that I did, but somehow I had a receipt that I had, put on my desk, on my nightstand, and I woke up and I wrote down these 5 ingredients, and then I went back to sleep. And when I got up that morning, I told my husband, I think I've got it. I went to Whole Foods and I went to Essenes, because those are places where you can, get different plant essences, and I put this product together, and 5 instantly hit me feng shui. There's 5 different elements to feng shui. And so I came up with this prototype. I talked to the young man and I said, listen, I think that I have something that's gonna work. I never told him that it was a product that I made, because I didn't want him to be biased and just say, hey, I like it because it's you. So I made the product and I said, listen, you call me and you give me some feedback on what's going on within the time frame of you coming back to the salon. He never called. His appointment came, he came and I said, well, what happened? Was everything okay with your scalp? He said, normally after the 3rd day, my scalp is inflamed. He said, it's been 2 weeks and I'm fine. So I started to continue to use the product on him. His scalp really got better. And people started asking me, well, what is that aroma? Because, they could smell the plant extracts. And I said, well, do you want to try it? And then it just pretty much started just from one product. And, the whole concept of me growing up natural and returning back, to eating things that were more holistic and, really trying to focus on that. That's really where it all came from. And I can only attribute it to God. It's a godsend.
So you won't mind me asking this last question, and I'm going to put up the PowerPoint. So do you see this whole thing as about, from the top of your head to the soles of your feet, basically being this holistic way we need to take care of ourselves? Because I know you are very much about exercising and eating the right foods, and we talked about a Vitamix yesterday. I'm trying to get better.
Yes.
So, all of these things, I think, this is one of the things that actually, for me, really attracted me to you, because I knew you were doing all these things, and
Yes.
I want somebody working on my head that I can trust,
Yes.
first of all. But it's also something about, I have never liked people with funny hands in my hair.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that's and I think that's just me, and I'm that's my old Southern geechiness. But funny. Let me explain with funny hands. You just don't know where people have been, and if they're not right, your hair's not gonna grow. And I mean, those of you from the South know what I'm talking about. My mother would not let everybody touch my hair.
Right, it's a Southern thing
My
where
mother
people
would
feel
not
like
let
the
everybody
energy
touch
is
my hair.
transferred
because they're
from
transferring
you touching
energy to you.
Exactly.
And you don't want people to touch your hair that are not right. And
Exactly.
I've always known after the first time, I'm like, you can touch my hair. You could touch my hair, but I'm always very funny
She
about who
did tell me
touches my
that
hair.
when we met.
Because I don't let that happen, because
Right.
it really is something there. I shouldn't say this out loud, but I just don't know what it is, but there's something about it. But go ahead, and I'm going to say.
I think that what really happens is that it's a natural occurrence that happens with a lot of people. It doesn't happen to everybody, but I find that a lot of times when I have clients come to me and they say, you know what, I want to go natural, it then transpires into, I want to eat healthier. I want to, I'm more conscious about the products that I'm using, cleaning products that I'm using in my home. So I think that it's just a natural progression that happens with people when they start thinking about what they're putting on their scalps, as she was mentioning earlier, and realizing that our bodies are porous. Our skin has porosity, and that means that the ability of your body to absorb moisture, and we have to really think about what we're putting on our scalps, what we're actually eating. And now, last year, there was actually a study, and Renee Chenault spoke on it on her newscast last year, that they did a study as to why African-American women have more instances of fibroid tumors than Caucasian women and their counterparts, and it's the relaxer. So now there's proof that it's not healthy. It's not just now I'm going to lose my hair, but now it's, am I going to get fibroids or any other tumor that may grow within my body, because this is a foreign substance, and with anything that you put or eat in your body, if your body can't identify it, it's going to float around and it's going to figure out a place to sit. And so now we're finding a huge influx of women that are having fibroids at very young ages, 30-year-old women. I'm hearing yesterday we're discussing how 30 and 40-year-old women are getting hysterectomies, whereas you didn't hear about that until maybe a woman was older in her years that was having that done. So we have to really start educating ourselves, not forcing the information, but putting it out there and allowing people to have make their own conscious decisions about what we're eating, what we're drinking, and what we're putting on our skin.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So now we're micing me up, so because I have to have two mics on, because we're actually going to tape this for the Melissa Harris Perry Show. If you notice this person back here leaning in the bowl, that's me. And I'm about to scare everybody in the planet, because I'm going to snatch this wig off. I'm going to let y'all see me for real. Because we wanted to talk a little bit about how we do my hair, because I think I've had this question a lot, and as somebody who's grown up with people just trying to touch my hair or asking me when I was in Catholic school, how come your hair is puffy today and it's straight the other day? And, that would be between, like, the time when my hair would get, like, all the humidity from it, and I'd be running around at recess with it really puffy, looking like I had an afro except it was laying down like this. And then, and then I would come with it, a fresh press, hot comb, and then you have your wonderful hair for a day where you look like Barbie, and then you don't look like Barbie no more. And so it's always been this kind of thing for me, but I've also, I also really respected my mom, for the way that she dealt with my hair, because my hair was hard to comb, first of all, and she never put a perm in any of our hair. This was the rule, was like no perm, no nothing. We gonna work with this and suffer. But we hot combed our hair like many people did in the South. And so once I started going gray, I had to make a decision whether or not I would put a lot of heat on my hair or not. And if you know anything about gray hair, if you put a lot of heat on it, it turns yellow, and you really just can't heat it up, and you've got to figure out a way to keep it. So that's what part of the turn was for me to go natural. But that turn came at a funny juncture, and I just want to tell the story really quickly because I think it's useful to hear this because it actually intersects my academic work. When I was wearing my hair straight, I started working on a book about women in the Church of God in Christ. And what I had noticed about a lot of these church women in this Holiness Pentecostal denomination is that they wore their hair straight. And it was bone straight, and it looked good, and it was great and everything. But when I started this project, I was in braids. And so it was very hard to get people to talk to me. And I thought, I have to do something because people need to talk to me. And so what I did was I took my braids out and I got my hair straightened. And the moment that happened, people just automatically started to talk to me and share stories. And so it was this difference about, how women in the denomination saw their hair. And there's a lot to do with that. We can't explain that all in the day. And I love them dearly. But it was something that was also sort of male dominated. It was definitely a sense in which this is a kind of aesthetic. The longer and more beautiful your hair was, you had the proper positions within the church. If you had short, nappy hair, you were basically an usher. Okay? You could not be, the first lady. You weren't going to be the bishop's wife. You were not going to be wearing St. John's. You were going to be relegated to doing this and carrying the tissues and everything else. And that's not a bad thing. It's just the truth. And so what really got me was this combination of hair and dress that really started me to think about what was going on. And so for a time writing the book, I had to go with really straight hair, and that was okay because I had a really, a great hairdresser at the time who, it was my natural hair. She blow dried me, she would flat iron me, and I would go off and go talk to these wonderful women, and they told me everything. But the minute I went back to being, nappy, the tap turned off. And so it was really interesting, and it also had regional differences to it too. But what was so fascinating to me, and this was the most fascinating thing of all, that when they started off their women's department in 1912, Madam C.J. Walker was always around, you were not supposed to straighten your hair. Straightening your hair was wrong. And so this whole genesis of what had happened in the denomination from 1912 to, 1995, 2000, was that they went from straightening your hair is bad and you need to wear your natural hair to straightening your hair is the only thing you can do. And so that made the questions about hair come up to me in a different kind of way. So what we wanted to do today, Abina and I, was sort of talk about this whole process about what I do with my hair, and then I'm gonna snatch this wig off. So you just talk a little bit about what we're doing, and we're gonna just go through the clips and show everybody. Okay, she's getting a new battery too, so we're almost done. We ready? Okay, good. No, that's fine. We gotta stay for tech. I know y'all out there waiting to see me snatch this wig. I can't wait to get it off because I'm telling you, I'm sweating so much underneath it. I admire you ladies who can wear wigs all day long because I know I've been like this.
What does it feel like?
It feels like constriction. It feels like my head is about to blow up. I have a big head. And I just feel like I have like a massive heat underneath here. Like when I take this off, it'll be like heat miser on the Christmas thing. My hair gonna be sticking up straight up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hot. Okay. And my friends are laughing at me down here because they know, like, we already know you running hot, but we know you running hotter now. Okay? So while we get the mic on, everybody enjoy this so far? You had a good day? Thank you for coming out. I mean, this has been really great. And I want to thank you for hanging with us, those of you who hung with us from 9 o'clock in the morning forward. I mean, we really appreciate it. And those of you out there in the internet land, hello. Tweet us. Holla at us. Yeah. We're going to look at the stream later. We will see you. Okay, so you ready? Yeah, we can hear you okay, but we need to get you, I'm going to steal your mic.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to take this one too?
No, I'm just going to give her one. Okay. So everybody can hear. Yeah, so you hold that, and for a minute, we'll sit it up there so you can talk while you're doing my hair.
Okay. So, hello. So Anthea always tells me that people always ask her, how do you get your hair like that? So I'm going to show you guys how she gets her hair like that. Okay, so let's take off Anita. Had to give her a name. You can't have a wig
Off, y'all.
and not give her a name. 'Cause she's like your BFF for like a couple of hours. So.
I might have a moment here. Wait a minute. Let's get this right. Should we do it like a show? Woo! Freedom. Oh, you don't even know. I may have a church moment here. Woo! Thank you. I'm telling you, this feels so good. I know people out there right now going, she just snatched your wig off. But I'm not ashamed of my hair. I love my hair.
Yes.
And this is what it looks like when we get done with it. But we're going to show you the process about how this, because then I think this is really important because we have so many stigmas about hair.
Yes.
Hair is always all this stuff. And, I wore the wig in part because I knew we were going to have to do some taping and everything. But I have been waiting for this moment. You just don't even understand. Because this is like, ooh. Yes. So anyway, this is a flat twist, and let's go through it. Let's talk you through all this so you know.
The first slide is when she's having her hair shampooed, and a lot of times people don't realize it, but a lot of shampoos are actually highly concentrated. So you always should dilute your shampoo. That's what that bottle is. It's a 10% shampoo, and then the rest is water. You always want to dilute the shampoos because shampoos are very highly concentrated, and not to mention the fact that you can stretch your dollar. So, next slide. This is her hair has been shampooed with a sulfate-free shampoo, and then we did a conditioner and detangle. Next slide. And now she's blowing out her hair. What I used on her hair was the creme brulee hair cream moisturizer, and it has silk amino acids, it's coconut, apricot oil, jojoba, very simple natural ingredients, and it's a light moisturizer as well. So you always want to moisturize your hair prior to blow drying, and you want to start off with a low heat setting, and as you gradually get the hair dry, you're going to go up to a higher setting, but you don't want to use too much high of a heat, just enough to stretch the curl pattern out. Next slide. So this is her hair in the blowout stage. A lot of women are wearing their hair in a blowout, but we're going to show you how I double strand flat twist her hair to give her hair texture. Next slide. So this is actually, a lot of people call it two-strand twist, but it's also another way of laying it down flat so that you still have that same wave pattern, but in a shorter amount of time. If I were to individually twist her hair, it would take several hours. So this style actually helps to give you that same wave pattern, but in half the time. Next slide. So here she is in all her glory. Flat twisted, laid down, and as she called it earlier, her Cleo look.
If you don't know who Cleo is, that's Cleo from Set It Off.
So we're going to... No. This is and then once her hair was flat twisted, I then put on a light setting lotion, which also I do. I'm very big on diluting. I dilute everything. So I used a setting lotion, which was diluted 50% water, 50% setting lotion, and I used a alcohol-free mousse as well. Next slide. So this is just a front view. Anytime you want to, you have to think about how you want the hair to be styled prior to actually laying out the twist so that when it comes out, it's going to give her a kind of a bang effect because she likes to have a little sass over the eye action going on. So that's what we do. Next slide. This is just an extension to show you the two strands together. Next slide. Two strands separated together. And then you can go to the next one. And you can go to the next slide. And there we are, again, back to the other side of the hair. Next slide, in the back. This is the back view. I actually have people who actually wear their hair like this for a week or two, and then they go and take it out. But we like volume for Anthea. Okay, next slide. Next slide. and that's me applying the mousse. Once again, once I applied the mousse, I then wet her hair again with water because, like I said, I like to dilute every product that I use so that you're not having an abundance of buildup of products. So you always want to use small amounts of each product because you have to consider that it's going to be a layering effect. Next slide. Next. That's a Sanex strip. You can purchase these at any beauty supply store. It's excellent because what it does is it helps to lay down any of the superfluous hair, and it keeps your hair from being fuzzy. So you can even purchase these, apply them on, put them on your hair at night, and then put your silk or satin bonnet on because those silk and satin bonnets, they tend to slide around, but these actually help to keep any of the superfluous hairs laid down. It's a Sanex strip. Barbers also use them to put around the neck to protect so that when you're using a cape from client to client, you're actually protecting the client's neck so that you're not transferring any type of bacteria from client to client. Next slide.
Yeah, we're showing my.
Now, this is Anita.
This is Anita. And for those of you who asked, let me tell you right now, let me open her up.
Yes.
Bobby Boss Corey, Kori.
That's her name. That's the technical name.
Because folks were asking, I wish I had me some wigs in the box right now. I could be selling them after the show. But.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as you notice, the Sanex strip was on her hair prior to putting the wig on. So you always want to make sure that you protect your hairline whenever you're wearing a wig or Anita's.
Yeah,
You want to make sure you protect your hair, okay? So I'm just going to show you how I actually take her hair apart and style it.
And will this bother you if we put the jacket around it? We may not be able to do it because she needs to hear my mic. So let's just.
Oh, if it doesn't bother you, it won't bother me. It's just
fine.
Normal
fine.
procedure, but she doesn't mind.
Yeah, so this is the fun part. Now, usually what happens is I'm the one that does this because I usually leave the shop just like this, and I let this sit for a whole day. I sleep in it, and then the next morning I take it down. But we're going to take it down in front of you so that you can see it all styled and everything, and so that when I leave tonight, I don't scare the cab driver on the way home. But that's it. And I think what is useful about this is that you need to know the sort of the planning that goes into hair, because a lot of people ask me, do you do individual twists? Do you do whatever? I can't personally do this to my hair. When I started wearing my hair this style, I try to do flat twists in the front as much as I can, but I can't reach the back of my head. I've always had a very thick head of hair. And it's always been a real chore for me to try to do my hair myself. And my friends can tell you, they can tell when I do it and when somebody professional does it. Because I look jacked if I do it, okay? It's kind of like Don King on crack. But, But I think the value of this is that, what I really feel Abhinav does for me is to help the personality in my hair come out. And I think this is, this question that we had earlier about, are bloggers taken away from stylists and all this stuff. I see this as being sort of a seamless process because for a long time, what I did was I looked at bloggers and stylists, and nobody talked about women with gray hair. Black women with gray hair, and this was one of the things that Afrobella and I were talking about. And when you get older, what do you do with your hair? And I grayed very early. I started graying at 25 years of age. And so for a few years, I dyed, and then I was just like, forget it. I'm working on a PhD. I can't be doing all this, And so I just decided to let it grow in like this because I knew the profession I would be in, that the gray hair would give me a little more gravitas. Now, what it does is, usually people look at my face and they tend to think that I'm either older than I am, and they're like, you look really young. Why do you have gray hair? And I say, that's because I've had so much trouble and people have given me so much trouble. But I think, it's all of this question about what you want to do with your hair and how you want to do it. And I think, there's a lot of pressure, especially when you start graying early, to dye. And I would never tell anybody what to do, in terms of that. But my decision was based out of a decision that I'm not going to be afraid of gray hair. And actually, I get a lot of compliments on it in Philadelphia. I feel really happy and lucky that I live here because this is a place where you can do a lot with your hair and nobody asks those questions about why you aren't dyeing it. I might have a different question if I were still in Los Angeles, okay? Because that's a place where everybody needs to be young. And if you have one gray hair, that means you have no career anywhere, okay? So I think, what's useful about all this is that we really need to be open about how people wear their hair, whether you decide you're going to wear your hair straight, curly, natural, however we do our hair. It needs to be something that uplifts you. It needs to be something that's going to give life to you, and also something that I think that it has to be a matter of individual style. And what I love, especially when I see younger African-American women, is that, you can change your style from day to day, or you can just go buy a wig, and do something different. You can play around with hair, and I think that's the beauty of all of this, is that it could be political if you want it to be, but sometimes it's just about being you. And that's what's most important. So while we're finishing this up, if anybody has some questions, I want you to start sort of formulating them. Do we need to get this all so that you have it just for the shows without the questions, or can we do? Okay. Yeah, so if you have questions you want to ask, come up to both of the microphones right now, so we can do sort of both and here and start a discussion, because I can sort of see you, but it's only like a little blur, but I can still wave you down if you're talking too much. While she's taking down my hair, and then we're going to come back to my hair in a minute and talk about stuff. If you can come to the mic, that'd be great. Okay, we'll start. You want to start over here first? Whoa, darling. We're filming, not you. Sit down, please. No. Mic is over there. Not this mic. Not my mic is my mic. We got two mics, over here and over here. Sorry about that. Just line up over here, sweetheart. I was like, he wanted to take my mic. I already had somebody ask me to marry me on Twitter, so he had it was very cute. There was like Snoopy Dog or something in a little hoodie and a dog. And I'm like, what you look like for real? But there you go. I'm always worried when something else on the avatar, because I'm like, either you really good looking or you really not. Let's start over here.
That was funny. Hi, my name is Laree Daniel Favors, and I'm an attorney and the author of a book called Afro State of Mind, Memories of a Nappy-Headed Black Girl. And my question is for you all as marketers, because as I was in the process of studying how to market my book, one of the things that really concerned me was this growing preference for black depicted as the light beige. Even within the natural hair movement. And someone earlier had mentioned the documentary on YouTube called Black Like Me by Carrie Davis, which talks about colorism, hair texture, and she really looks at the doll test and the fact that even though the first doll test was done in the 40s, where 3, 4, and 5-year-olds were demonstrating a preference for whiteness and light skin, that since the 60 years plus that have happened since then, you do the doll test now, and black children, 3, 4, 5, and 6, still have a demonstrated preference for light skin and straight hair because they associate a certain value with that. So as it pertains to women within the natural hair movement, because, there's this, I'm curly, clearly I'm not, but there's this preference that, for the curly girl type of hair. And so as marketers, how do you navigate that innate preference, which many in our community still have, and the fact that we're trying to, or many of us are trying to present an image of blackness that accepts the kinky, tiny, 3-inch, teeny-weeny afro as beautiful in its own right without having to be compared against white hair?
That's you, Afro. I guess that's you.
I find it's interesting because I think in my experience I've learned that there's a sweet spot right in the middle. So if I feature somebody on my blog who is too light skinned or her hair is too loose, I get people mad at me for putting that person on my blog. Yeah. And if I feature somebody who's darker and has a kinkier texture, she may not get comments,
right,
which is an awful thing.
Right.
And I experienced hurt feelings on either side of that argument. I think that I don't know what's gonna fix it, because I've been doing this thing for 6 years. I keep hoping, and I was saying this earlier, I keep hoping to see things change, and then you find that they aren't changing. So I think the way to really address that and is what we're doing right here. Yeah. Having the discussion, and also, in the blogging space, and just kind of featuring those images wherever and however often we can. And just reminding little girls that, you don't have to look like anybody else, you need to just look like you and enjoy who you are. So it's, yes.
If I can add real quickly, I think what's remarkable about your question is that it is a question. Because there was a time when there were no black women at all depicted in ads by major corporations. So the fact that at least now we see brown women with whatever texture hair, okay, at least we're now there. So let's
baby steps.
Baby steps, and I think it's going to be up to us a little bit to continue to put pressure on these corporate entities and on these advertising agencies, because we already know that the companies, the manufacturers are responding to what we want. So, you know, the next step is for marketers and advertisers to respond to the consumers that they're actually trying to attract. So, you know, in one sense, your question is, that's already a sign of progress. And we should not be satisfied with that. But when our mothers and grandmothers were children, they never saw each other.
Yeah,
They never saw themselves on TV. Yeah.
Thank you. Question over here.
Hi, my name is Tanisha McLean, and I'm a student at Morgan State University. My question was actually almost that exact same question, but I had another question in mind, and it's in regards to how do you promote your products and have panels such as these and promote natural beauty and natural hair without making those who are not natural seem like that they're now doing something wrong, that they're on this other side where it's no longer acceptable to perm your hair for this reason or that reason. How do you reach both entities without excluding one?
It's all in how you put the event together, and it's all in how, I mean, at least from my perspective, I don't do a lot of events necessarily, but it's in how you write the information, and you want to make sure that everybody, it's your choice, you know, and who am I to condemn somebody else's choice? And I think that's something that it happens a lot, where it's like, okay, the condemned becomes the condemner, you know, and it's a way that people, I don't know, it's like a way to make yourself feel good about your decisions and your choices, and you don't have to make somebody else feel bad about theirs in order to feel good about yours. I come from a family of a lot of women, and they all have relaxed hair. My mother is 72. She has told me flat out, I am never going to stop relaxing, and I'm never going to stop coloring my hair, and I'm going to have to get used to you, and you're going to have to get used to me. You know, and does that make her less of a black woman or less of a strong woman? No, it doesn't. And it would be ridiculous for me to try to act like I'm better than anybody else who, you know, just because I've chosen to wear my hair this way. When I see it on, you know, in other places, it makes me really sad. And I think that we divide our community unnecessarily. And especially when some of these women, I go to, you know, natural hair events sometimes, or I might be hired at a natural hair event, and I see when a woman with straight hair or with a weave or with blonde hair or whatever might walk in, there's a tendency to look and to judge, and you see it. You don't even have to articulate it. It's just there. That woman might be there to learn. That woman might be there because she wants to transition too, you know, and to walk into that space and feel that judgment, it's unfortunate, and it's something that we have to work on as a community.
And I obviously agree. I mean, respect for each other is an imperative, and not only for each other as individuals, but respect the individual journeys that we're going on.
Yeah.
I would guess that, tell me if I'm wrong, but the majority of us have had a relaxer or some hair coloring at one point or another in our lives, and that we each individually made the decision to not relax or not get that hair coloring at different stages in our lives.
Right.
And we all come to it from a different perspective, and we make those decisions at different stages of our lives, and we really just need to be respectful of that. And we are always about not judging the decisions, those personal care decisions that we're making, because, you know, life's too hard.
Yeah.
Life's too hard.
Too
We
hard
just
and
need
too
to
short.
respect each other and support one another.
Thank you.
Amen.
Thank you. Question over here.
Hi, my name is Tunisia, and I am the mother of a beautiful 11-year-old natural hair girl. And she was the main reason why I decided to go natural. In the second grade, a little girl came to school, and she had the bone straight bun, and I knew she was going to be a problem. And, of course, my daughter came home, and she was like, I want that bun. And I'm like, sure, I can put it in the bun. No, I want it swooped. And I'm like, okay, you know, your hair is thick, it's beautiful, like, you don't need that. And she's looking at me with my weave all the way down my back, like, yeah, okay, Mom. So it was wonderful that we were able to go through that natural hair journey together. And anyone who has ever gone through that, it really is a journey. You go through so many things inside and out. With that being said, earlier there was a discussion about how mothers took pride in doing their daughter's hair, like with the straight parts and greasing us up and making, just
Yeah.
the whole thing. And because it was like a tradition to make sure that your child was well kept. But I think of it more of like a bonding, like you really sat between your mother's knees and
couple
you
of
were able to
hours, right?
right.
Just you and her.
You're talking, you are bonding. Now I feel like mothers are neglecting it, and I don't want to be ignorant to say like they're being lazy or they don't know how to do it because they want to just put a relaxer in and just put it in a ponytail and be done with it. Do you think that with the resources that we now have with YouTube and everything, that women or mothers will get back to taking care of their children's hair or doing the research to figure out what they can do and change it into like making it a bonding experience?
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the trend. I don't even think it's not a trend. The natural, it's not a trend. But the movement towards natural hairstyles. Even what's remarkable is to meet a mother who has a perm, but her. Okay, so that's an interesting. Why are you making that choice? But I think. I think absolutely that's just kind of a natural next step. I see that as a natural next step. I really do. And, there's nothing like on Sunday afternoons spending those 2 hours and prior to that trying to think, okay, how am I going to entertain her for 2 hours so I can get these twists done? And Mommy, are you almost done? How many more? How many more twists? But, it's a precious moment. It is a precious moment. And absolutely, I think
that it's important for people like you to share your story. I think it's important for more people to hear, okay, I'm a mom, and it was hard for me to make this decision, but it was something that I made for my little girl, and we did this together, and it brought us closer. Okay. I think that's a perspective that might not be out there right now. So I'm not trying to tell you to go start making YouTube videos, but it might be something that you want to do. I think that there's a perception out there so we tend to judge non-black women who adopt black children on how they style their children's hair. But within the black community, we do not always know how to style our own hair, and we don't always know how to style our own children's hair. Okay. So there's a little hypocrisy in that sometimes. And I think it's important to recognize that hypocrisy and to then do something about it. So you did something about it, and that's an amazing thing. You are to be applauded for that.
yeah.
Thank you. We're going to do a little, the people who are standing up, just give us 1 second. We want to just talk about what we just did here and for the taping and why. So now you see that I have like a whole head of hair.
Yeah.
Right?
Voila.
And this is what it looks like on the first day, and it usually comes out a lot more than this, but let me let you talk a little bit about it.
So what I did was I actually did what we consider to be finger styling or finger combing, and so I just simply unraveled the twist and styled it with my fingers. And the great thing about this style is that as the days go on, the style is going to change. So effortlessly, it's going to do that. So she's going to get up tomorrow, and it's going to be fuller and larger. And as the days go on, based on what the weather is, her hair is just going to start to just grow and bloom and get larger and larger. But the wave pattern will remain. It'll just change and get big hair.
So what you usually see me on the show, that's like I've usually gone to see Abinah 2 to 3 days before. And so by that time it has opened up and it's my really big fro. But right now it's like this little thing, like a little wedge cut almost. Yeah, like a little bob. But it'll open up a lot more. So, and my hair is really susceptible like that. It's usually just really big hair. And at night, what I do is tie it off with a silk scarf. I might twist up a little bit towards the end if I have to think about, when I want to go back again when I come and see you or not.
Right,
so,
in between.
So maintenance is pretty easy.
How long were the braids in? Or the twists?
Just overnight. We did this. We started yesterday at 10:30.
Yeah.
The twists were in by 1:30, and I was under the dryer drying for an hour. And
then she slept
so it's
with
been
it.
about 24 hours.
Okay. Yeah.
It's 24 and that's usually how long I keep it in.
And it normally lasts. She comes every 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 to 2 weeks, yeah.
yeah.
Depending on what's going on and how badly I've messed it up. And, I mean, if you go into something, I will say this, if you go into, what happens to me is if I go into something really humid or really rainy, it wrecks it. It completely, my hair is just like, and it just gets big and the curl structure is gone. But what has happened now in the last 6 to 8 months is that it really, my hair trains very well.
Exactly.
And so once you start to do this, her hair, it will hold that curl pattern. So even when you saw me over the bowl in the first shot, that was after being combed out, and it still holds that curl pattern.
It still had her wave pattern. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
actually train your hair to go in a certain direction. So since she's been having this pattern done in terms of texture, twisting it, it waves so easily now. But that's what happens even with like men with barbering. These guys want waves. You have to train your hair to wave. You have to brush it and train it to go in that particular direction, because ideally your hair is growing out all over the place. So you have to make it go all in one same direction.
And it's a living thing, so you got to sort of let it do its thing, right?
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for waiting. Let me ask you a question.
Yes. I'm a Philadelphia native who's now a student here at this Ivy League university. And I'm not going to go into my background all the way, but
Yeah, we don't have time. I wish we
time.
could.
Don't want to, don't need to. But like where I'm at now, the fact that I shaved my hair bald, saved lots and lots of money from not going to barbers. Since I'm brown skinned and want to live out my fullest, my best existence according to the Creator, I've met men and women that talked about locks, growing dreadlocks, and I've met so many people. Now, my interest is what can be done with this 9-ether hair here, this tender-headed, like I am, to actually have extensions put in, because the hair does grow. It does grow.
Talk about
but
that.
I started balding up here.
I think that's probably a question that I could answer. At
And
this
it could
point,
be input. It could be input from the ladies at the table, too.
At this point where you are right now, you're going to have to just rock the baldy, pretty much. There cannot be any extensions extended from your scalp. You have to have hair in order to do that. And if you're saying that you've already experienced some hair loss, I would not recommend that you have any type of tension put on your hair. I think that you have chosen a style that is very befitting. I think you should stick with that.
Stick with it.
Yes, absolutely. And it looks good on you. I mean, and this is the thing about hair too. I mean, at certain times in our lives as we age, this hair is not going to be able to hold things, as much. I mean, if you ever see the picture of Naomi Campbell for a hairline now?
She has,
so all the years and years and years and weaves, so she has no hairline. She's bald as you are.
Yeah,
Up
the
here in
lace front is just.
So and that takes a lot of your hair.
Exactly.
So once your hair is not as strong, you can't do the same things. But I think what you're doing is really great. And
My
I
husband
commend you
always
for
tries to remind me that bald is natural too.
Yes, it is.
So
it's very natural.
so you are natural.
Yeah. Thank you. Next
Yeah.
question.
Hi, my name is Ro. My question or my statement is kind of drawn.
Oh, no
off-
statements because we're
Well,
going
it's
to
a
run out of time. The question.
but It's drawn off of that. I recently went natural, but I have a type of alopecia that's very rare, and I actually have a bald spot that's right here that you will never see. But my question there aren't many forums, any blogs, any hairstylists who will kind of touch on that girl who wants to go natural, whose hair looks like no one else's hair because she has that spot. What can someone like me do for me and the other rare girls that are around here who have no one that we can really look to?
Yeah.
There are no articles for alopecia. There are no hairstylists that'll touch you after you have this spot in the middle of your head.
I don't want to take out my phone right now and start doing this, but there is a Facebook group for alopecia. There are people who have alopecia and how you figure it out. I can't remember her name. I want you to come talk to me at the end of it and give me your name so I can give you her information, because there is an alopecia help group. I think the most important thing would be to find a stylist that knows how to deal with the hair. And if it's a case of covering it up or a case of cutting it short so it kind of all looks the same, you have to feel comfortable with it. And I think it's something that happens to women that can be soul crushing, and I mean, we were just talking about Naomi Campbell and there was laughter, but think about how you would feel if you were Naomi Campbell. I mean, she could afford to buy the, yeah, exactly. She could get a wig, hand knitted in Siberia or something, but I mean, not everybody can do that,
Exactly.
right? So, you need to think about creating your own community. And that's the thing with blogs. When I didn't find a reflection of myself, I'd try to put it out there, and I just hoped that there would be other people out there who would see it and would identify with it, and it turned out to be more people than I ever would have dreamed in my life. So you might find the same thing if you create some kind of platform for yourself, whether it's starting to do YouTube videos where you talk about the feeling, or you find this Facebook group that I'm going to share with you. Putting that out there, it's something that people need to know. Right. And there's probably a lot of people who have that secret that don't want to talk about it. So I'm glad that you even stood up and talked about it right now.
I'm not sure what community you live in, but the Association of African American Dermatologists. What's been amazing to me is what a small world this is in terms of the connections that people have, and in a professional association like that, it would surprise me if someone in a group who's a member of that organization does not know a stylist or does not know some resource that you can tap into. So I get on that Google and start looking for someone like that.
I know you had something.
Yeah, and just so that I could touch on the alopecia, I think that what you first want to do is you need to find out what the source of your alopecia is. And once you get that down packed, then you can figure out on your own how you can possibly even have your hair grow back. I've had a client that actually had alopecia. She had very, very badly, several patches all around, where it's so much so that my husband and she just decided they were just going to shave all her hair really low and dark. And, you know, she came to us, and we really treated her hair, and she now can grow a fro. But you have to even look at the underlining, because your body talks to you. And, you know, from your fingernails to your hair to your eyes, if you pay attention to what's going on with your body, you'll realize that there's something that's going on that, you know, medically could be happening, some precursors of what could be happening internally, because the body does talk. So if you're experiencing you know, alopecia, you might want to even look into maybe getting your thyroid checked. A lot of women don't realize it, but right now a lot of African American women are suffering from thyroid. So if you've never had your thyroid checked, that could be what's going on with your hair. Don't think that it's just an aesthetic thing that's happening. Oh, I have alopecia, but it's telling you that something's going on inside. So my recommendation would be for you to speak with your primary care physician and get your thyroid checked. I've had several women last year, 2 women as a matter of fact, that had problems with their thyroid because they were having hair loss, and I recommended that happen, and so they found out that they had imbalanced thyroid. So look into getting that checked.
And it's also the cause of you going gray early, too. That's what happened to me. Sorry. You were going to say something? Go
I
ahead.
wanted to jump back in really quick because you brought up dermatology, and it reminded me of an interview that I had done last year with Dr. Brooke Jackson, who's like one of the premier African-American dermatologists in Chicago. And she was mad when I was talking to her about relaxers and hair. And I need to get back to her and do a story on it. But one of the things that she said that stuck with me is, we will pay hundreds of dollars on products, but you won't want to pay a $20 copay to go see a doctor, right? So it's like just a matter of sometimes recognizing that maybe all of this, you know, these comments online like, oh, just get some Jamaican black castor oil and rub it on and pray on it overnight. No, you should maybe, you know, like going to actually see your primary care physician and then a dermatologist who can actually tell you, okay, this is what's up, you know, and who is within your own ethnicity, who can speak to the issues because they know what they are. Like, I think that's going to make a huge difference for you.
Exactly.
Thank you. I'm going to take 2 questions real quick together. If whoever's ready, if you would just walk up and do yours real quick and do it, so because we're coming to the end and I don't want to lose people because we still have a reception for all of you, and I want to talk to you about that just briefly.
Okay. Hi, my name is Sarah Craig. I'm a student here, sophomore in the college. I just wanted to ask if you could give me 3 things to say to the black community about empowering ourselves when it comes to our hair, because I'm an active member on Black Hair Pen, and I'm an active member in all of the groups that we have here, but we don't, and it's always an issue talking about our hair and what's right and what's wrong, and a lot of judgment is passed. So if you could give me like 3 really quick points of empowerment to say to my fellow sisters and brothers here at Penn.
Number 1, come see Dr. Butler.
Okay, I got you.
Okay, because I'm on the group. I just haven't said anything because I'm not on Facebook a lot, but
Okay.
yes, I'm watching y'all.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, the first thing that came to mind is that your journey is not necessarily somebody else's journey, and it is not your place to judge somebody else's journey. So that would be one thing. I'm going to come up with another one maybe later on. Okay.
She took mine. How about that? I think, you know, we did touch on that before in terms of judging one another and, you know, perm versus relaxer versus natural, and we're all, gosh, as women, we just want to feel beautiful, and beauty is kind of whatever our own individual definition of that is, and whatever way we have found to be beautiful on that particular day, because it does depend on the day too. And to respect that, to respect each other's individual sense of what beauty is, I would say.
I would say that knowledge is power. People use that all the time, but it's very true. The more that you know about yourself, the more you're going to be able to embrace who you are. And so that means that if you have to pick up some books, go on blogs, and, culminate all of the information and bring it in so that it works for you. And, knowing that, like she said, your journey is not everyone's. Everybody gets to a certain place, and everybody can get to 34th and Spruce differently. We all figured out how to get here, but everybody has a different way of getting to where you need to be. And I think that sometimes people need to be doing baby steps where others go straight to the jugular. So, it really has to be a process of your own empowerment, your own knowledge, and what you're comfortable with. Because ideally, at the end of the day, you have to be comfortable within your own skin. So that's what I would say.
Thank you. I'm going to take these last questions very quickly, and we're going to take them all together. So one, you have the same question? Okay, so go ahead. No, go.
Go ahead. You have
time to argue. Just
okay. Well, my question, first I wanted to say there's an organization called Zuri Works that has a bunch of folks who give away services, but also we work with Dr. Monty Harris, who is the premier trichologist. Trichology is the study of hair. He is the man who knows everything about hair, and he knows how to grow back hair that has fallen out from alopecia. Dr. Monty Harris, Washington, D.C., he's the man. Go to him and check out Zuri Works, too. My question is, what do you guys think about the role of hair in health, right? Generally speaking, right, what do you guys think about the idea that we can talk about getting healthier and fitter and stuff in the context of taking care of our hair?
Okay, great. That's a great question. And then your question, too. We'll take these both together.
My question, as a person who's been on a natural hair journey for 3 years and walking into a salon for the first time about a week ago, a Dominican salon, and just doing that, I have real hair that's really strong, so I didn't think it was going to hurt it, like 4C hair.
Okay.
But I just wanted to see what it looked like. And I've gotten a gazillion comments from people in the hair industry. And since this is a hair care panel, I wanted you guys to talk about the diaspora of African braiding salons and Dominican hair salons popping up on every black block in the city, and people being able to go in and get their hair styled in an hour for $25 compared to being a Saturday afternoon with the girls spending a lot more. So I just wanted you to touch on that.
Thank you. Both great questions. Thank you. Go ahead. Wherever one you want to start.
Also, you wanted to talk about health and hair and how those things are so important. So this is just a touching back on what I spoke about earlier as to how important it is that we do have well-balanced diets. And there are all certain foods that you can eat, certain antioxidants and things. Wheatgrass being one of my ultimate favorites. A lot of people don't know about wheatgrass, but it's an extremely powerful grass that if you eat it, it will do wonders for your body. If you Google wheatgrass, the Google line is so long, but one woman in particular, and her name is Ann Wigmore, she is actually the woman who brought wheatgrass to the forefront. And so if you're looking to try to have some sort of, pick me up or on your hair growth, your skin, your hair, all of those things, are rooted from what we eat. And so it's true about when people say you are what you eat. And even the term of people saying that I'm not my hair. In fact, you are, because your hair carries your DNA. So you are your hair. So you have to be very conscious about what it is that you are eating. If you want beautiful, healthy, strong hair, you have to eat foods that are going to be indicative of those things. Fried foods will kill your hair. Any sort of frying is processed. Those hydrogenated oils, you want to stay away from those things because not only do they're bad for your hair, but they're bad for your skin and they're bad for our hearts. And even with exercising, my thing is that, you don't have to exercise to be skinny. You have to exercise to be healthy. Women, African-American women, we are suffering from heart disease. I don't know if you guys know, but we are at the top of the list because we don't want to sweat out our hair when we need to be thinking more about our health and less about the fact that I just got my hair pressed and I just spent $50 and I don't want to do that. Look, it's cheaper to get your hair done over as opposed to having to pay a large medical bill because you're suffering from heart disease, diabetes, and high blood pressure. So we need to get past the fact that about the aesthetics and start thinking more about what's going on in our body so that we can live longer, right? It's not just about having long hair, but it's about living longer, okay?
Yeah. The connection between nutrition and healthy hair, I don't think it can be talked about enough. And the fact that protein is the building block for healthy hair, and we're talking about healthy proteins, low-fat proteins, those are critical. So wheatgrass is that's an amazing thing. Yeah, but protein as well, and vitamin D. We should really be cognizant of the amount of just minerals and vitamins that we're taking in because vitamin D is also an important building block for healthy hair. I think it is a reflection of what's going on inside oftentimes.
No, darling. We're done. I really can't have you make a shot. No. Sit down, please. Sit down. I will not tolerate that. No. You cannot shout out. Go ahead.
And real quick on the stylist to the stylist question, I think it's very important to put your faith in a stylist who actually cares about the health of your hair. She's less interested in how much money you're paying for her services. She's more interested in establishing a long-term relationship with you as her client, like this stylist right here, and the overall health of your hair. I only went natural because my stylist, who was the lone black stylist in a white-owned salon, said to me the first day I sat in her chair, she barely knew me, so it was bold of her to say, you don't need a relaxer, you should stop doing it. And she was a godsend to me. She was an absolute godsend to me, and from day one caring about and she cares about my hair after I've left her chair, which is very important.
I've been off and on a fitness journey for 10 years. And what I realized is when my hair was relaxed, I used it as an excuse not to exercise. And I would say to myself, oh, well, I just did my hair, so I can't do it. So for me, it was something that I used. I was aware even of it in the back of my mind that I was using it as an excuse. And then I've been natural for 11 years, and I'm still not, able to run away from somebody who's chasing me, which is really what I want to be able to do. I'm not here for being in a certain dress size or anything like that. That is what I care about. I want to be fit. I want to walk up some stairs and not feel like I'm going to die, right? So, I think that's kind of where, for me, the fitness comes from, and I think a lot of us, we find reasons to not do the things that we don't want to do, and that's one of them that people tend to use. So once you're able to recognize that within yourself, that's the first step.
Thank you for that. I want to just thank the panelists. This has been really great. Afrobella, Abina, Landra. This has been really just a wonderful day. And anytime you can get your hair done in front of a whole room and in front of people on the internet, it's great. But I just have a one announcement. We're not done with the day yet because we have a reception for you inside the Amato Recital Hall across the quad, just inside of Irvine Auditorium. So I think there'll be somebody sort of leading you out so that you'll know. Back there in the back, raise your hand, wave. All these folks back here in the back will sort of lead the way over where you're going to get to meet and see a wonderful set of photos from the Kafura Project created by photographer Glenford Nunez. And these pictures are wonderful, so I would really encourage you to go over, get a little bit of wine and cheese, talk to each other. And then also, we have a producer here. Hang on 1 second. 1 second. I know y'all ready to go, but just give me one thing because you're going to want to know this. We have a producer here from the MHP show, and that was why they had the camera here in front, watch my hair. So she's going to be talking, maybe to pick up a couple of you to talk about the day, what you thought, everything else. So we would really appreciate it if a couple of you could do that for us. Thank you so much for this. Thanks for those who watched out on the web. job. We really appreciate you. We appreciate all the people who tweeted out on Black Hair Campaign. And they want to thank me, but it's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming, and enjoy the reception.